Hello, and thank you for joining me for card number 1 in my Halloween card series. Today we're going to create a spooky yet whimsical and fun card. I have here a brand new stamp just released in the September-October catalog. This is called Bloom with Grace. We're going to be using this pumpkin image here. And as you can see, I have Distress Oxides we'll be playing with to create our background. I'm very excited about this new catalog. It is packed full of goodies and I want all the pretty things. Really quick, let me show you the Bloom with Grace line. As you can see here, this is very fall inspired. I love these colors and all the sunflowers. There's the paper pack and there's pocket scrapbooking cards. This is a stamp again we're using today. Look at those cards that they put together. Look at the antlers with the sunflowers. Love it. There's a little cowboy boot with more flowers. There's even a workshop, but we'll save that for another day. So here's a peek at what we're making today. It's a little like spooky pumpkin patch. So I am going to start with these new thin cuts. These are the fancy border dies. And we're going to pull off these two that kind of look like rolling hills. And yep, you probably guessed, we're going to make some rolling hills. So I have some New England Ivy and Fern Cardstock. This one here's the fern, and then 2 little pieces of the New England Ivy. And I'm going to use a little post-it removable tape just to tack these down into place here. I've cut these to 5.5 inches in length, and you want your tallest hill, the top of the little knolls there, to be about 2 inches. I'll go ahead and die cut these off camera. And as you can see, I've kind of staggered the colors. So New England Ivy, Fern, and then New England Ivy again. Now let's go ahead and do some stamping. So I have my little pumpkin. Now this is a very fall inspired stamp, but we're going to turn it into a Halloween pumpkin. And I actually like that it doesn't have a face on it because we're going to have some fun drawing in our own pumpkin face. So we need 2 white pumpkins, and then this is Paprika, and the darker side, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my little pumpkin. Now there is a coordinating die, so I'll go ahead and situate this and get all of these die cut. So we have our 3 little pumpkins. Reminds me of a song my kids used to sing, but I think it was 5 pumpkins. Anyway, we have a piece of the White Daisy cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and start with my Carolina ink. I really wanted a soft, lighter shade of blue, and I didn't have, I don't have a whole collection of Distress Oxides, so this one's going to work just fine. I'm using this craft brush that I got on Amazon, and I just applied a light layer. I'm looking at my tallest little grassy knoll to make sure I have enough of that color peeking out. Now this Carolina blue ink is an alcohol ink. It's awesome for so many things, but you'll see how the Distress Oxides are different. They are a blend of pigment inks and alcohol inks. So they sit on top of the paper. You have more time to work with them. They're just really smooth and they're really great for ink blending. So this is the chip Sapphire, and I'm using my little foam blending tool here and applying this across the top of my card. So I'm going to do my best to blend these two together, and then I'm going to go back over that area with the Carolina just to help even blend it more. It may not look like it has a really good blend between the 2 colors now, but you'll see on the finished product it's going to look great. So I'm adding a little bit of this black soot. I love this color. It's just a really rich black, and we're just going to do that on the very upper edge there. So that looks good. Again, just kind of testing the little grassy area there. And now what we're going to do with our distressed background is I'm spritzing it with water. And it's going to put just little splatters where it's going to oxidize and react with the pigment ink. And I'm also going to use a little of the shimmer pen here, and I'm tapping it, and this is going to put sparkle, which you can see in the close-ups a little bit better in the end there. All right, we can clean up our all-purpose mat and set that aside and bring back in our card panel. Now I'm going to bring in all my bits and pieces, but before we go any further, we need to do some embossing. So this little Happy Halloween spider web is also from the current catalog. Look at this little pumpkin, and I love these spooky gnomes. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Squirrel! Let's get back to the card. We need our VersaMark ink and then this little spider web. Now we don't want the Happy Halloween, we just want the web portion of this image. I'm going to kind of frame in the upper half of the card. So we just need to stamp a portion of this. Now I did let this panel dry. The pigment ink in the pigment portion of the Distress Oxides does stay wet for a while. So, you know, I went ahead and ran some errands. If you're impatient, you can use your heat tool and dry it that way. But it does need to be dry before you're going to do any embossing on it. So we've gone ahead and stamped our web. I applied the black embossing powder and now I'm just melting that. It is warping our card, but that's not a big deal. It'll be perfect in the end. And I'm going to go ahead and use my anti-static pouch there, and we'll put our spider web in the center. Now it's okay if our Halloween word shows a little bit, and I'm putting a frame around the card in the end, so it's going to hide that. But I wanted more of the spider web to show. So again, I wanted it to peek out from under the frame so it won't matter that that Halloween word is showing there. I'll go ahead and get all of that set, and you could see that shine. I love embossing powder. It's just such a cool look. We're almost done with the embossing. We have to add our little spiders. You can't have a spider web or a haunted pumpkin patch without a couple spiders. I'm going to add 2 of these guys kind of dangling from their webs at staggered heights. I want to make sure I have enough room there. Now there is a little web element that you can stamp, but I'm just going to draw that in later. We'll go ahead and heat set those. Perfect. We have our 2 little spiders. And there I'm showing you that little web you can stamp, but this way I don't have to worry about the length, and I just draw it in, and I'll show you how we can use liquid glass to make that shiny to match the embossing finish. So we're ready to layer our little grassy knolls. I'm just using tape runner. Now this is when I realized that I cut my card at 4 by 5.5 instead of 4 1/4. So I'm going to go ahead and mount this to my card panel so I can kind of get that situated and then adhere the rest of the pieces where they should go. So I made a mistake, but that's no big deal. We're going to improvise and no one will ever know in the end. I usually leave a margin or a little border around the edge of my cards, and that's probably I was on autopilot and just cut it at 4 inches rather than the 4 1/4, but that's okay. So we're layering up our hills here, and then we are going to add a little coloring to our pumpkins. This is the ice gray blend, and I love to add gray to our white stamped elements. Just putting a little shading creates a little shadow effect on our pumpkins and helps give them some character. I like to do this with white flowers as well. It just adds a really nice look. So I'm just going around the top and bottom, and then this is the earth brown, so I'm going to color in the stem with that. And, you know, technically your light spot on the pumpkin should be wherever the moon would be shining in at, but that's okay. This is my world, and I'm going to create it. So I'm showing you I used a little of the earth brown on the top of this pumpkin, and now we're going to draw our little face. So you do not have to be an artist to draw a face on a pumpkin. And if you're stumped and want to check out Pinterest for pumpkin images, you'll find all sorts of darling faces that will inspire you. I'm just using my journaling pen, and then we will color it in. I'm just going to black it out here, and then we'll use that liquid glass in the end just to kind of finish this off. So I'm going for a happy pumpkin. We want this to be a little smiley guy. And now, if you guys have been watching my videos, you know how much I love my stitched rectangle dies. You can't really appreciate the stitching when you cut out the glitter paper, but that's okay. I have this perfect glittery frame that is cut to my A2 card panel, and we're just going to put this around the edge of the card, and it's going to finish it off perfectly. I'm using a little liquid glue so I have time to wiggle that into place, and now we're ready for our pumpkins. Can't be a pumpkin patch without pumpkins. So I'm going to just stagger the layers. We put our cute little face in the foreground because he's our focal point, and then the white ones on either side. And then I have this little Happy Hauntings. That is tiny, and I've used the Ranger White Super Fine, and the sentiment came from this old stamp set. That's a retired stamp set, but it is a good one. It's called Captured Memories. So what I'm doing here is just taking a black marker. The core of this black cardstock is white, and this is a very small detail, but it makes a big difference. So I'm just going to go around the edges, color that in so we don't have any of the white core peeking out. It only takes a second, and then we can use this glue. I'm going to situate this tiny little Happy Haunting sentiment over the pumpkin there. And now we're ready to use liquid glass with our fine tip applicator. It's perfect for these tiny little areas. You want to do this last because the liquid glass does have or take time to dry. So you don't want to be moving things around or adhering them and worrying about that. So I do it at the very end. So let me show you the first card I did. So here's this one we just created. And the very first one I actually used a larger splatter, and I like that look. It looks like stars in the night sky. So it just shows you the different looks you can get depending on how much water you put on that Distress Oxide background. This card was a lot of fun to make, and I'm looking forward to this series. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Tag that subscribe button so you don't miss the upcoming Halloween card series. Catch you in the next video.